a few months ago, the Board of Education asked us to come up with some different options for Bramwell High School. So this evening, with the help of the administrative team, we've put together some of those options that we would like to present with you. Tonight we'll take a closer look at the background information regarding the two high schools, as well as then two different options regarding what we might be able to do with Bramwell High School and Braddock High School, as well as then looking at next steps and a question and answer session for you to help guide us and give us direction on how you would like us to proceed. So let's first off start off with looking at that background information regarding the two high schools. As you know, Bramwell High School has had declining enrollment over the last 8 years and has moved from 450 students down to 190 students being its current enrollment, compared to Braddock High School, which has a capacity of 1,000 students and is currently at 700 students. So if we were to take a look at closing Bramwell High School and combining those two schools together, we would be about 100 students off of our mark of its capacity at this time. We also know that based on Bramwell High School and Braddock High School's course offerings, there are twice as many course offerings available to our Braddock High School students. We also know that there's a difference in terms of when the buildings were built. We know that Braddock High School is built about in 2010, so definitely has newer facilities and conditions than our 35-year-old school, which was built in 1985. However, due to our maintenance plan and our long-term and short-term planning that we do related to our facilities and buildings and grounds, that high school of Bramwell High School is in very good condition, doesn't have major defects, and not a lot of major maintenance upgrades are required or needed. So now let's take a look at the two options. We have the one option, which is to close Bramwell High School and transport those close to 200 students to Braddock High School. And then on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about keeping Bramwell High School open and some options or recommendations specific to that we do have. So a couple of things to keep in mind should we close Bramwell High School and transport those students to Braddock High School. First off, we know that there will be an increase in transportation costs. And at the same time, there could potentially also be other increases in costs. And so that is one of the things that if this is the direction that the school board is leaning towards, we would recommend that you do a cost analysis of closing a school, of those transportation costs, as well as operation costs. And I guess one thing that we don't have listed here is also dealing with staffing costs, because there would be a change in staffing, and so we would like to look at a staffing plan should there be a closure. A few things to note that we know we would be able to provide for all of our students in the district, regardless of which high school then they would be attending, because they would all be at Braddock High School, is we know that there would be an equitable course offering for all of our high school students. We also know at the same time that there would be equitable facilities for those students as well. A few things that we would need to consider, though, with the closing of Bramwell is how we would repurpose that building. Obviously, we wouldn't want it just to remain empty, and we would like to look at other options of what that building could be used for, or other options of selling that facility or renting out that facility. We also know that with this movement of combining the two high schools, we would be about 100 students off of the capacity of what Braddock High School was built for. So let's talk about the second option that's available as well. And that is basically keeping Bramwell High School open. Some of the things, though, that we would like to do before making a decision on closing or keeping Bramwell High School open are a few studies and research and surveys. One of those being that we'd really like to take a closer look at the enrollment decline the past 8 years to find out why we've decreased from 450 students to 190 students. One of those options would be to survey the families that opted to leave not only that school but potentially our district, and find out if there were specific reasons related to the educational or instructional program, the facilities, or other options that those districts were offering for them. We also know that potentially there need to be a future upgrade if we did keep the building open, of flooring, library, and gym space to make it comparable facilities as what we have at Braddock High School. In the short term, though, there are some things that we can do to provide for our Bramwell High School students. We could provide distance learning options to get comparable courses from Braddock High School over into Bramwell High School as well. We also could develop more partnerships with our technical college in the area through their Start College Now program, as well as our college that's located in 45 minutes away with our early college credit program. Those together would give us some options and opportunities for those students to get a step into our 2-year and our 4-year programs. Some other things that would be potentials down the road, but is to make this building and their course offerings and their curricular offerings more appealing to not only our district students, but also open enrollment students from other districts. We could look at this school building having a specific purpose or focus in their instructional programs, so potential of a magnet school, a charter school, or even an IB school. And as a potential last resort, an option that we could also take a look at doing is adjusting attendance boundaries to increase the enrollment. However, we always know, even through neighboring districts and when we've adjusted attendance boundaries of our elementary schools, people hold true value to their neighborhood school and would generally want to attend those. However, it is an option that we could explore to balance out the enrollment between the two school buildings. So with that, you've now heard the two options that are available to you that have some sub-layered or multi-layered options below them, or recommendations of studies, surveys, and research that we want to do. So we'll open up the floor for questions and answers and discussion. And that should hopefully provide us some direction and next steps that the Board of Education is leaning towards, so that we can continue to develop our recommendations for you and bring that back to you in the near future of whether we would keep Bramwell High School open or we would move those students over to Braddock High School. So let's open the floor for questions. Thank you.